Cognizant to the needs of our learners, parents, and teachers, the Department of Education provided us with powerful tools for productivity that will allow us to foster critical thinking skills, problem-solving skills, communication and collaboration skills to be compassionate, responsible global citizens. Join us and discover new ideas in our series of professional development training program with the ICTS Edtech Unit and Microsoft Education Philippines. Together, we will equip our learners and empower our fellow educators for a dynamic future. Para sa bata, para sa bayan, at para sa guro. Sulong Edukalidad.
Magandang araw, Sir Wilbur po, at your service. Narito ang ETUlay upang gabayan ka sa inyong pag-aaral upang lubos na maunawaan ang iba't ibang paksa o subject. Ang ETUlay ay isang free online tutorial class na pinangungunahan ng ICTS Educational Technology Unit sa pamumuno ni Undersecretary Elaine Del B. Pascua. Ang programang ito ay hindi lamang para sa mga bata, kundi ito rin ay magsisilbing gabay sa mga magulang at mga guro kung paano nila ituturo o gagabayan sa bawat asignatura ang kanilang mga anak o mga estudyante. Sa kasalukuyan, ang self-learning module mula sa rehiyon ng Calabarzon at kilala sa tawag na pivot ang ginagamit sa ating ETUlay online class. Kaya ano pang hinihintay ninyo? Ihanda na ang inyong mga ballpen o lapis, papel o kwaderno at samahan kaming itulay ang pagkatuto para sa bawat batang Pilipino. Sama-sama tayong magtutulungan para malampasan ang mga hamon sa panahong ito. Halina't matuto kasama ang inyong online tutor sa oras na ito.
Okay, ayan. So magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Time check 4:05 sa aking relo. At sa loob ng 40 minuto hanggang 50 or 60 minuto tayo magsasama-sama para sa huling linggo ng ating ETUlay online tutorial para sa practical research para sa Quarter 3, Week 7, the review of related literature ang ating tatalakayin sa oras na ito. So, ang review of related literature ay ang Chapter 2 ng ating practical research 2 o ang quantitative research. So, huling linggo na po ito na ating third quarter. Next week po tayo ay masisimula na sa ating fourth quarter. Ayan, so magandang hapon po muna sa ating mga taga-subaybay na nanonood sa ating Facebook Live at sa YouTube. Magandang hapon po from Toledo City Division. Nerissa Susan Trosio, Daryl Hernandez, Errol Evangelista, good afternoon. Allison Ismael, good afternoon. Okay, so para sa hapong ito, ang ating objective mula sa Most Essential Learning Competencies Guide ay presents written review of related literature. Okay, so magfo-focus po tayo ngayon sa pagsulat ng review of related literature ng ating Chapter 2 ng ating research. Okay, balikan muna natin ang ating pinag-aralan sa pamamagitan ng pagsagot sa ating learning task 1. So for the first learning task, you have to choose the letter to correct answer to the following question. Okay? So the first question is, which of the following is not a purpose of a conceptual framework? Sige nga, pakisagot po ang ating question number 1. I-type lang po sa comment box ang letter ng iyong sagot. A, to provide a context for interpreting the study findings. B, to encourage theory development that is useful and practical. C, to state categorically the periods covered by the study. Or D, to explain observations. Again, which is not a purpose of a conceptual framework. So, noong nakaraang linggo tayo ay nag-discuss sa conceptual framework, kung paano sumulat or isulat ang conceptual framework ng ating practical research. Meron na bang sumagot sa ating first question? Ayan, meron. Letter D, according to Rainier, Sir Rainier. Letter D daw, according to Mark Riel, Makipro Sumalinog. Sige nga, kung letter D. Wala bang ibang sagot dyan? Puro sila letter D. Sige, ang tamang sagot sa ating unang katanungan ay letter C. To state categorically the periods covered by the study. Okay? Why? Kasi ang letter C ay, yes, purpose po siya, pero purpose siya ng ano? Ng scope and the limitation of the study. Okay? So, purpose siya ng scope and the limitation of the study. Next, number 2. Which of the following is not true about conceptual framework? So, kanina, purpose, ngayon, which is not true about conceptual framework. So, parang description or characteristic naman ng conceptual framework and number 2. So, ito by letter A, conceptual framework is like a recipe or blueprint. Or B, not all conceptual framework have to include a diagram or graphic. Or letter C, if you use a diagram in your conceptual framework, the narrative is not needed anymore. And letter D, your theoretical framework introduces the relevant researches and studies to show how your study will help contribute to the field of research. Ano po kayang sagot sa ating kalawang katanungan? Ayaw, may sumagot na si Rudy Antinor. Pasensya na, nagkulang ng period ang ating sentences sa choices. Okay, so ang tamang sagot sa number 2, which of the following is not true about conceptual framework, or which is false among the choices. So the correct answer is letter C. If you use a diagram in your conceptual framework, the narrative is not needed anymore. Kailangan pa rin. Kasi yun yung mag-explain further ng ating conceptual diagram. No? So, importante po ang narrative, or kasi sa narrative maaring nakastate doon ang theoretical framework ng study. Okay? So, letter C. Next, okay, meron tayong 4 sentences. What will you do here is to arrange the steps in writing a conceptual framework. So, write A for step 1, B for step 2, and so on. So, first sentence, or number 1, is do a little review, a literature review. 2, choose your topic. 3, generate a conceptual framework. Or 4, isolate the important variables. So, alin po kaya sa steps in writing a conceptual framework ang first step, second step, third step, and fourth step? Pwede pong isang ratsyada na lang ang sagot ninyo, yung 4 na letters. So for example, ang number 1 sa tingin nyo yan ay ikalawang step. So you'll say B. No, B, tapos yung choose your topic if you think that's the third. So B, C, let's say D, A. No, B, C, D, A. Sige nga, meron na ba sumagot? Wala pa tayong sumasagot. Anyway, let's proceed. So, ang ating pong tamang sagot ay okay. So, BADC. So, ang first na step ay ang number 2, choose your topic. And ang pangalawang step ay do a literature review. Ang pangatlong step ay isolate the important variables. And third step is generate the conceptual framework. So, BADC ang tamang arrangement ng ating steps, no? From 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, let's proceed now to our discussion, which is again selecting relevant literature. Okay? Relevant literature sa practical research. So what is it? No, sorry, it should be walang apostrophe S. What is it? Selecting relevant literature. So ano nga ba ang literature review? First, let's try to define or understand what literature review is in a research. So literature review is also known as review of related literature, or in short, RRL. No? It is a synthesis of different published articles relevant to the researcher's main topic, which requires proper citation as credits to the source of ideas that they contain. Okay, so I underline the keywords in the definition or description of RRL. First, synthesis of different published articles. So synthesis or it's a collection, but then you synthesize these collection of different published articles relevant to your research main topic, no? And it requires proper citation. So proper citation was discussed in the last week of your practical research 1. So in practical research 2, wala na tong discussion about proper citation. Pero if we still have time in the coming weeks, we will try to go over again proper citation or have a review about proper citation. So again, it's a synthesis of different published articles, and because you use these published articles or studies, then you need to properly cite the references, the authors, the writers of your references as credits, no, to the source of ideas. It also identifies gaps within the literature that your research will attempt to address. So this second definition is the more important one, no? Between the two, because this is one of the reasons why you are conducting a research, in order to fill in the gap in the field of study that you are working on, no? Specifically to answer your questions, no? Because these questions were, some of these questions were based on the gaps within the literature that your research will attempt to address. Okay? And also, literature review reports critical review of the relevant literatures. It's not just a simple review, but it's a critical review, no? Critical thinking, no? Kailangan dito ng critical thinking skills in order to write or come up with a good literature review. So it's not just a review per se, but it's a critical review of the relevant literature. And these are the purposes of review of related literature. First, to improve your knowledge and understanding of your topic. Since you are reading related literature or studies, published studies, you will be able to enrich your knowledge and understanding of your topic, no? So that you'll have a better understanding and a better grasp of your topic. Next, to determine what each source contributes to the topic, no? It's important that you are reading your different sources, no, in order to identify the what your sources contributes to your topic. Because if you don't read, just, you know, perhaps you're in a haste to complete your RRL, you would not know which of the sources has a great contribution to your topic, or you will not be able to identify which should not be included and which should really be included. Next is to integrate and summarize what is known in a particular topic. Okay? Of course, when you read published articles or related literature of your topic, you'll be able to integrate what has been researched on, or what has been studied about that particular topic. So you will be able to integrate it into your own research study. Okay? And another purpose is to understand the relationship between various contributions, identify and resolve contradictions, and determine gaps or unanswered questions. Okay? Meaning, once you identify the contributions of the source, you'll be able to understand if what relationship do these contributions have in your research, in your own research. And you'll be able to identify and resolve contradictions, which means if there are some contradictions, then you'll be able to refute them, or agree with them, or disagree with these contradictions, and of course resolve these contradictions, and determine gaps or unanswered questions. As what we said earlier, the main purpose of your conducting your research is to fill the gaps of information of your field of study, no, through your questions, research questions. All right. So after you locate a published study or article, you need to read and evaluate the material, right? So hindi ka lang basta-basta magsi-search sa, for example, internet, kasi I'm sure most of our beginners in practical research, whether it's in practical research 1 or practical research 2, dumediretso sa internet. Okay? So you need to evaluate everything that you have search on the internet, no? Your sources from the internet. And how do you do that? First, examine the title. So we have discussed about a writing or a specific or a good research title. So through the title, you'll be able to know if that material or study, whether related or not, is a good source of ideas or information. But just make sure again that the title is specific and indicates the nature of research that you are conducting. Next, read the abstract. Most studies that are published only show the abstract, no? Uh, Although it's a very limited information, but in the abstract you can already get the key information that you need for your research. Nasa abstract yan. Parang summary yan ng research. So what do you see or read in the abstract? It's the summary of critical information about a study. So, nandyan na yung purpose, nandyan na yung methods, and the major findings of the certain abstract. So, abstract, you read the abstract. And then read the article or the literature. Now, if you're not yet contented with the information you have from the title and the abstract, or you are looking for specific information, then you can read the article or the published literature. You can first skim the entire article looking for headings, subheadings, and then you can do scanning of the entire article later on. Alright? So read the article. And in reading the article, there are conditions that can affect or influence your reading. For example, if the article is of high quality, and then if you are sharply focused on a particular issue, that can also what do you call this? That can also affect, in your reading the article or the literature. Parang nagbabasa ka ng dyaryo. May hinahanap ka, so sa dyaryo na, let's say, issue, or balita. So ganun din yan sa pagbabasa ng research or article. And then another factor that can affect in reading the entire article or literature or the entire research study is that you have a solid theoretical background. Meaning, alam mo na kung ano talaga ang kailangan mong malaman, gusto mong malaman, no? So, that can also affect in reading the article. So those are the three. Again, let me just show you the three guidelines that can help you find out the merits of the material, or that can help you evaluate the source. So first, examine the title. Then read the title. If you're not satisfied, then read the entire article or the entire research study. Okay? Now, to perform a good literature review as a researcher, you must be selective, comprehensive, critical, and current. What do you mean by being selective? It means you do not list everything, but only the most relevant studies, or you do not search um, just anything. Of course, since you already have a topic or your specific topic and title, then just be selective in searching for keywords, no, related to your topic. Next, be comprehensive, which means you include parts of the studies that are highly relevant and you do not omit the important ones. So in here, your critical thinking skills will come into play. All right. So that's why being critical is important uh, in being a comprehensive, no, I mean in relation to literature review. So selective, comprehensive, and critical. So you have to decide for yourself which of of all the information ideas you gathered and search from the internet, from books and other sources should be included in your review of related literature. Or of course, you have to know which one is highly relevant, which one is good or not. No. Next, you should be current, meaning include recent studies in your literature review as much as possible. Uh, Include only studies that are of current or recent times. So maybe within the last 5 years. No, now if you can find uh, literature within that span of within the period 5 years, last 5 years, then you can extend it to 10, but that will be very well, not very obsolete, but I think if you don't, you can find a literature that is within 5 years or even 10 years, then your topic is not good. So you may want to change your topic kung hindi ka makakahanap, no, kasi sayang ang oras kung ang oras sa paghahanap ng source kung wala ka naman talaga mahanap na source. So mahirap, ibig sabihin mahirap ang topic, or maybe hindi talaga specific ang topic mo. Okay? So again, to perform a good literature review, you must be selective, comprehensive, critical, and current. Okay. There are a lot of sources for the literature review. No? So, saan ka nga ba makakahanap ng literature so that you will review and include in your RRL or Chapter 2 of your research? No? We have different categories of sources. Now, generally, we call them as general references, or one category is general references. These are sources that are first accessed by researchers to give them information about other sources. Okay? So these are sources that are first accessed by researchers to give them information about other sources. Okay, like books, monographs, conference proceedings. Another category is primary sources. These are sources that are first-hand, that provide first-hand information about experts and other researchers' publication. So you will conduct an interview, will do observations if for you to be able to get first-hand information about your research study or your topic, no? And uh, interview and observations are two of the methods in collecting data. Ano? So, the discussions of practical research one, I think there's a separate topic for this in practical research 2 sa fourth quarter. And kailangan ang i-interview nyo ay syempre experts, no? Yung meron talagang alam sa research or merong kinalaman sa inyong research. Maybe your research participants, no? Or research respondents ay isa sa pwede nyong ma-interview or ma-observe to get first-hand information. Then, kung merong primary, we also have secondary sources. Okay? And these are sources that are written by authors to describe another researcher's work. So, meron na siyang pinagkunan ng idea niya. So, if you can publish your research, then your research can be a secondary source, or you can be a secondary source of another research study related to your study. So, examples are textbooks, academic, and research journals. Okay? And meron din tayong tinatawag na tertiary sources. So, these are books and articles based on secondary sources. So, secondary is based on the first source, a primary source. Tertiary naman ay based sa secondary source. So, examples nito ay encyclopedias, atlases, dictionaries, handbooks. Parang general references din tong mga tertiary sources. All right? So those are the four major categories of the sources of information or ideas for your research. We have general references, primary sources, secondary sources, and tertiary sources. Now, once you have determined your source, and then you have the materials, okay, specific materials, and then you have the ideas or the information you need, no? Now, next thing that you should remember is to make these information or ideas organized. So make this information and ideas organized and systematic. Now, one of the suggestions by the Journal of Moral Education is to have a notes frame and layout. So this will be prepared, no, before you do your literature review, kasi yan yung gagawin ninyong parang notebook. All right, of course with your pen, ball pen, then you should have a paper. And again, to make your information ideas systematic and organized, you can draw or make a notes frame and layout. So a notes frame and layout has the following parts, no, or columns and rows. The first row is the category, classification, heading, or subheading. Perhaps for the first or the topmost row, you can have the title of your research or a topic or a keyword or anything that can help you um, in making your research notes easier to understand. Now, the second row is source information or the bibliographic reference and location. Ito na yung information about your source. So, nandyan sa second row um, ano tawag nito, ang author or ang writer, then nandiyan din yung type of reference. Is it a book? Is it a journal? Is it a newspaper or periodical? Online ba siya? Or a print material? No? And also include the year of publication or the year it was published and the place of publication. No? Para madali. Para pag site mo ng research within the literature review and pag prepare mo ng references page, then madali na lang siyang hanapin, no, kung kaninong idea or sino ang or ano ang source ng yung idea kasi nasa notes frame and layout. Next is the third row with two columns. On the left side you have your notes, meaning the notes that you got from your source or from the material, and then you can have your own thoughts or comments about the ideas and information you've written in the notes column. Okay, so meron ka ring importante na meron ka ring sariling komento or sariling idea kasi yun yung kumbaga kailangan kasi interpretation, no? Your own interpretation about the idea. You know that research is not just copy pasting ideas, no? That's why you are taught about paraphrasing. Even paraphrasing can sometimes be a problem, ano, and it can lead to plagiarism na tinatawag natin. Okay? So, kailangan meron kang corresponding comments or thoughts, sarili mong thoughts or ideas about the ideas from your source. So, yan lang ang notes frame and layout, no? Napakasimple pero malaking tulong para sa iyong literature review, no? Para ma-organize ang literature review. Any paper will do, bond paper or a notebook. Yung big note, mas maganda yung big notebook, no? Linyahan nyo na lang, no? On every page. Okay. Now let's proceed. So the ability to review and to report relevant literature is a key academic skill. So it's an academic skill. One of these skills is note-taking skills, right? Yung kanina, I mean dito sa pag-accomplish ng notes frame and layout, note-taking skills ang kailangan dito, no? Kailangan marunong ka rin ng tinatawag na skimming and scanning. Now, here are the basic steps in the literature review process. Of course, you select a topic. Whether it's you or your advisor, research advisor, the first thing you do is to have a topic, no? To have a topic. Next, after selecting a topic, deciding on it, no? Next thing is you select and choose literature. So, yun na yung kanina, yung pag-accomplish ng notes, frame, and layout. So, magbabasa ka na ng related literature. And then, you analyze and interpret literature. So, magiging madali to kung, again, meron kang notes, frame, layout. Kasi opposite dun sa notes or ideas, meron ka ng sariling comments or interpretation or maybe analysis about such ideas. And finally, you write the review. No, you write the critical review of related literature. So, ganun lang kadali, right? Now, in the fourth step, writing your review, so parang additional tip ito. When you write your review, it should be in the past tense, except when discussing its significance. And so, in this case, you can use the present tense. So, walang future. So, it's either past tense, mostly past tense. But then, when you discuss the significance, you will use the present tense. Okay? Make sure na consistent ka sa tense of your verb mo. Otherwise, magkakaroon ng problema sa grammar, no? Yung or mechanics or in understanding your research. We have an example here. Martin in 2007 found that there was a possible direct relationship between how children saw and felt about themselves and how they felt about superheroes. You have the verbs found, and then you have was, you have saw, and felt in the first sentence. So, past tense siya. Okay? Now, in the second sentence, nag-shift ka to present. Why? Kasi nag-discuss na ng significance. So, maybe itong significance na to is your own interpretation or analysis of the first idea or the first sentence. So, you will say, this shows that it is probable that superheroes may be able to influence an adolescent's perception of masculinity. So, shows is in the present tense. Okay? Now, note the first word, Martin, and then you have the year. That's what we call the citation. In-text citation. Kung naalala nyo yung ating in-text citation, again, that's one way to write your in-text citation. Okay. And that's all what we've discussed for now, that what we can discuss for now. And so before we proceed to what you have learned and assessment, let's have first this learning task. You'll just determine the possible sources of literature review from the list below. Write S if it is a possible source and S if not. So, S kung source and S kung not a source. Sige. I-show ko muna lahat. So, number 1, is it a possible source or not? Ayan. Good afternoon sa ating nakasubaybay pa rin sa mga oras na to. Ayan. Meron tayong from Agusan del Sur Division, Fritchie Ann. From Santa Ana National High School, Reyna Fuentes Oison. From Bulatucan is Nilda Madlos. Alright, so ang first number, which is books, is a source. How about number 2? Kung let's say na naginip ka about sa topic mo, can it be a possible source? Let's say sa kakaisip mo ng research na panaginipan mo. Kung napanaginipan mo, pwede ba siyang maging source? Of course not. No, hindi pwede. Kasi hindi naman siya based sa facts. No, hindi siya factual. How about thoughts? Thoughts and S, meaning your ang tawag dito, yung sarili mong opinion. No, sarili mong opinion. Well, if your thoughts or your opinion is based on your based on an information, a preceding information or idea, then pwede siya sa literature review. But then again, it's not the main source. No? Kumaga, based lang siya sa another source. Newspapers. Is it, are newspapers possible sources? Yes, they are. Ano? Kasi sa newspapers, of course, nandyan ang factual information, no, sa newspapers. Dumadaan kasi yan sa iba't ibang stage ng editing para talaga masala ang information kung totoo ba o hindi. Of course, it's a different thing if you have the opinion page. Next, journals. Are journals possible source? Yes, they are. How about 6? Mental pictures or images that you can see in your mind. Are they are not possible sources. So NS. How about diaries? Ayan, sinagot na lahat ni Dion. Manggaw, F Dion. If published, NS daw ang number 9. Very good. So, number 7, diaries, source is a possible source. So, S, textbooks, it's a possible source. Circulars, possible source. And finally, number 10, of course, not ang guardian angel. No? Kung halimbawa sa panaginip mo, bigla napakitang guardian angel mo, merong binigay na information, well, that's a different story. No? Parang spiritual, hindi na siya research, no? Research related, spiritually related na siya. Anyway, so there you are, again, the possible sources of your research. This time, let's have this, again, learning task. Identify the missing steps in the literature review process. So, yung number 1 and number 3 step ang missing. Ano po kaya ang number 1 and number 3 steps? Meron bang sasagot sa ating viewers? Yes, good PM, Daryl Dean Gundan Tordillo. Yan kay Princess Darlene Tumampil. Good afternoon. Irene Grana. Good afternoon. Sige, let's show the answer. So the first step is select a topic. And the third step is analyze and interpret literature. No? So those are the missing steps. Select a topic, third, analyze and interpret literature. So we're now on our generalization of what we have learned. So let's try to let's have a review, or try to review or take a look back and remember the things you learned. So within the last 40 or 50 minutes, what have you learned from our discussion? Particularly, what have you realized about the review of related literature? So review of related literature is what? So what do you think is it based on our discussion in the last 50 minutes? And finally, for your assessment, which will be your homework and application of what we discussed and what you learned about review of related literature. Perhaps you are in this stage already in your practical research too, no? Because I'm sure you already have your own research topic, no? So you are to write the review of related literature of your own research topic for practical research too. Remember, next week, fourth quarter na tayo at dapat ready na tayo sa ating RRL, Review of Related Literature. Okay? And with that, I say, here are my references, by the way. I've used the module of DepEd Regional Office 10, no? Practical Research 2, Senior High School Alternative Delivery Mode. So, ang pinagbasehan ko ng aking presentation ngayon ay ang module ng Department of Education Regional Office 10. And of course, the book, which I also got other ideas, no, supplementary information, is the book by Prieto, Naval, and Carey, published in 2017, Practical Research 2 for Senior High School. So with that, I say thank you. Maraming salamat. Maraming salamat sa ating pagsasama-sama sa third quarter. Hopefully, walang bibitaw or meron pa tayong matulungan, maitulay ang ating fourth quarter lesson. So, sama-sama pa rin tayo next quarter, next week, no? Umpisa na po tayo ng ating fourth quarter next week. Again, maraming salamat. Daghang salamat, damo nga salamat. This is your tutor Ronald. Up next, or already showing statistics and probability by Tutor Reverie. See you again next week. Thank you again. And good afternoon.
Sigurado ako na marami ka na sa ating ETUlay tutorial session ngayong araw. Tandaan, ito ay hindi lamang para sa ating mga mag-aaral, kundi pati rin sa ating mga minamahal na guro at mga magulang na kaagapay natin para maituloy ang pagkatuto sa kabila ng nararanasang pandemya. Patuloy ding sumubaybay sa DepEd TV para sa mga araling ginawang video episodes. Mapapanood ito mula Lunes hanggang Sabado, alas 7 ng umaga hanggang alas 7 ng gabi sa inyong mga telebisyon. Abangan sa Lunes mula 1:00 ng tanghali ang iba pang aralin sa ating ETUlay free online tutorial session sa Science. I-like and subscribe at manatiling nakasubaybay sa ating ETUlay tutorial session sa DepEd Edtech Unit FB page at Educational Technology Unit channel sa YouTube at sa DepEd Tayo at DepEd Philippines social media accounts. Paalam!